it just seemed like the time we should have a little chat about the American Revolution. Because we still have problems. We always will have problems, but we need to remember how blessed we are. That's really what I wanted to talk to you about. And we have three incredible guests that are going to come at this revolution from different angles, and you're about to learn so much on the show. But I just want to remind you of this. Revolution, the toppling of a government. It's not a new concept. It's happened since man started to establish governments on Earth. People get sick of it, they topple it. It almost always ends bad. Why? Why does it almost always end bad? And you can see this today. You'll have an evil government, an evil tyrant, something horrible. And we'll think, well, let's just get rid of it. And we do several times. We participated in it several times. And you think, well, it can't possibly get worse. We got rid of this guy. But it's almost always worse. Why is that? Well, it's because usually the people with the most power, the most guns, they're the ones who fill up the power vacuum when a government has been toppled. So you may kick out a tyrant, an evil tyrant, a bad man, but the guy who is the most powerful, who's willing to shoot the most people in the face or stab them if we're going back to ancient history, he's the one who ends up taking over. And then you went from one tyrant to an even worse tyrant / warlord. But that didn't happen here. We are one of the few countries you can ever name in human history where we had a revolution. We tossed off a tyrant, and the men who led our revolution, they absolutely could have taken power, established some sort of a monarchy and oligarchy here. But the men, wealthy, powerful men who led our revolution, they wanted something different. You, me, we exist here 249 years later with something different because our revolution was about casting off tyranny and making sure we never replace it. They didn't want to replace the King of England when they tossed him out. They wanted the American people to be free. And I wanted to nail down on this really quickly before we get to our guests. Land of the free. Free. America's free. Don't let that word mean nothing. It's become so watered down now that we don't even really understand what we're talking about. To be free means that you, the citizen, you can criticize your government openly, out in the public square without fear. It means you, the American citizen, you are allowed to be armed because it doesn't matter whether or not the government wants you to be armed. You should be armed because you, the individual, you are sovereign and you have every right to protect yourself, your family, and your property. Now, these concepts may seem, oh yeah, I get that. You don't understand how unique that is in human history. In fact, how unique it is in the world today. As we speak right now, that's not how most people live on this planet, but you do, and I do. And we have that blessing because of the revolution, not just because we fought a war with the most powerful country on earth and won, because we fought a war with the most powerful country on earth, won, and created a free society. Just the state system itself, the federal government, limited. That's really what most of the Constitution is about, putting up walls, fences around the federal government. You're only allowed to do this and only allowed to do that. Anything else? The states get to govern themselves. The people deserve to be free. The people deserve to choose what they want. You, me, our children. They get to enjoy that country. And that is so incredibly unique in human history. That's not usually how it goes. We are blessed. Our revolution is rare. It's the rarest thing in the world. And we're just so blessed by God to be here. I hope you realize that. The American Revolution, we all think we kind of know the high points, and maybe we do know the high points, but there's so much more to it. So we thought it'd be a good time to bring in some experts, guys who've written books on it, dissected it. I mean, even things like "Give me liberty" or "Give me death." Everyone knows that speech, but what was that all about? What was happening at the time? Well, I think we should dig into that, don't you? Let's do that. All right. So, how do you teach history? How should you teach history, your nation's history? Certain countries, like ours, in certain sectors, teach their kids that the country sucks. Certain countries go completely the opposite way, maybe over the top, maybe too over the top, depending on who you are. Countries like Japan. Let's ask someone who actually teaches it instead of me. Joining me now, the great Dr. Wilfred McClay of the amazing Hillsdale College, which is near and dear to my heart, and author of the book that I would recommend if you're looking to learn about this, Land of Hope. All right, Doctor, you have the awesome responsibility of teaching young minds about America, American history, the Revolution. How do you do it? What's the right way?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think the first and foremost thing is you have to think of yourself as being involved in helping to form citizens, good citizens, people who are going to be informed, effective, judicious, non-crazy, uh, able to function as citizens in a democratic Republican society, and that doesn't just happen by osmosis. They have to learn certain things. They have to learn the principles of our way of life, of our government. So that's what I see as the foremost responsibility. But I also think you ought to teach history as something that is part of their heritage, that it's an inheritance, and it's a good inheritance. It's not an inheritance of disease or debt. It's or not that exclusively. It's an inheritance of freedom, the freedom that people have fought for, died for, sacrificed for, and given their all to perpetuate. So there should be an attitude of gratitude, if I may put it that way. And I definitely am not of the school of thought, the first kind of historian that you cited in your intro. I think it's an extraordinary country, and they should know it. And they should be grateful for that, and they should take up the task of perpetuating it.
Amen. No, I agree 100%. I love that line. I'm preparing citizens. Do you find, now I should preface this by saying I understand Hillsdale College is going to get a certain kind of student, a student that's probably more ready to hear from someone like you than Berkeley or something like that. But do you find the students you get ready for that message? Have they been taught something different? Do they soak it up like a sponge? Do they push back? How's that go?
Well, look, I feel very privileged to be at Hillsdale. I've only been here for 4 years, and actually, if somebody my age would, normal people would be thinking about retirement. My idea of retirement is being carried out in a pine box. I love what I do too much, and I think it's too important to I have no interest in playing golf or shuffleboard. So what am I going to? But seriously, it's a privilege to teach at Hillsdale, but I've only done it for the last 4 years. The other 7 years I've been teaching, I've been at other places, some of which were very good, or I had very good experiences, very good students. I had great students at the University of Oklahoma, for example, where I was for 8 years, and before coming to Hillsdale. And I have great affection for Oklahoma. But I would have to say, unlike Hillsdale students, you don't know what you're going to be getting in terms of having a kind of eager, hungry predisposition to know more about a country that they already love, and they want to know more about why they should love it. You have to do some persuasion, and students come in with very bad, mistaken ideas. For example, I think other places that I've taught, the assumption that students have coming into the class is that the United States invented slavery, and really only the southern states. And so there's a unique kind of burden of guilt that we bear. And that's absolute rubbish. We did not invent slavery. Slavery has been universal. It's almost been more the rule than the exception in the history of humankind. We did something extraordinary beginning around the 18th century. We and the Anglo-American world started to move towards abolition of slavery. And the United States of America, had the first anti-slavery, abolitionist society in the world. So we were guilty of this institution that the human race has largely outgrown, although there's a lot of it going on today in the world. That's another subject. But we have led the way in dealing with our faults. And I think that's one of the things that kids need to get, is an understanding. You don't have to claim perfection for the United States of America to be proud of it, and to be proud of our founding fathers, who were fallible leaders. If you're looking for infallibility in your heroes, you're never going to find any heroes, because there aren't any infallible men in the world. But what is great about us is not only that we have a great beginning founded on great principles, but we've been trying and trying decade after decade, century after century, to live up to those ideals that are foundational to us. And I think accentuating the negative, especially as we come up on our 250th anniversary, seems to me very wrong-handed. But you're right. There are the America Sucks contingents out there in full force, particularly in higher education, which is really very sad.
No, it is, and I'll tell you, Doctor, I'm a history freak. Obviously, I'm just a fan. I'm not a historian like you are, but I'm a history freak. I just hoover it up. I read, I watch it all, and it has been very difficult for me as a history fan to watch what has happened to the subject of history. I actually argue repeatedly it's one of the most damaging thing the America haters have taken over. You can't just download a podcast now without getting some sort of America Sucks version of history, a new book. It's some America Sucks version of history, and I can't stand it. It's awful.
Well, and the funny thing about it is that they are so moralistic, and you can't talk about just in an objective way about slavery, how it was different at different times and in different regions, and just understand it as a human institution of a particular time and place. You have to deliver a sermon on the subject. And that gets in the way of historical understanding. History is not a morality play. Even though I also insist that we have much to be very, very proud of about our history. And but another reason to teach history, American history, to our students is that this is their heritage. It's a precious thing. And to teach it wrongly, to teach it as a source of shame, is really to deprive them. It's like depriving somebody of their inheritance. And I think that's morally offensive, and also a big waste of time that could be better spent inculcating them with a sense of pride. One of the things when I was working on the book, I had a man I didn't know very well, a very high-end lawyer in New York, white shoe law firm, who wanted to meet me, and we had dinner together. And he made this statement that absolutely blew me away. It's a simple statement. Many of your listeners will say, well, duh, but I had not thought about this. He said, look, I think that when you teach young people that they live under a bad regime, it's damaging to their souls. And wow, that just hit me very hard, that the way you teach history is very important as an act of moral formation in the young. And if you form them in the wrong way, it can be damaging to them in permanent in very serious ways that have consequences for the nation too, but have consequences for them in their individual lives. So ever since then, and I had informed my composition of the book. But by the way, may I say, we have a new second edition of Land of Hope coming out, and it's going to be great. We have 3 times as many maps and images, all kinds of features that teachers are going to love. It's a kind of non-textbook textbook. That's what I strove to do. And everybody tells me they love reading it. So, who am I to object? But I think they're going to love the 2.0,
No doubt.
Land of Hope 2.0 better.
Oh, I'm going to so nerd out on this book. I can't wait to get my hands on this book.
Well, we'll send you a copy as soon as I get it.
A Land of... I'm all over it. I'm all over it. Why'd you call it A Land of Hope?
Because, and that was the first thing I did before I started writing it. I thought to myself, the title is really going to be very important. And and it came to me very quickly. And for this reason, that America is a place, it's an idea, but it's also a sort of spiritual concept. And in this sense that it's part of our national makeup, a part of our national creed. We're made up of many people. We are a nation of immigrants in the sense that the entire Western Hemisphere was populated by people who'd come from somewhere else. Even the indigenous peoples had come from somewhere else. They come from Asia. And but all the people who came westward, with the very important exception of enslaved Africans, came in search of a better life. They wanted to take a chance on a new place, a new location, a second chance at life, not to be condemned to live out their lives in the conditions into which they were born, whether they were Polish peasants or what have you. That America was a chance and a second chance. And it's a land of hope in that the hopes of improvement of one's life, and also the hope, because we've always been a very religious people, a hope that, it's the original Puritans thought that they could establish a true church in a new Zion, the new world. So in some ways, we are the most, I say we're the most aspirational people on earth, probably the most aspirational people that have ever been. And that's why Land of Hope seemed to me to be the perfect title, because hope is aspiration. Hope is that substance towards which we yearn, the things for which may be material, they may be spiritual. All of these things are part of our makeup.
Doctor, you make me want to go sit in your class. Not that I could ever get into Hillsdale, but you make me want to go sit in your class. A Land of Hope, I will be picking it up. Thank you, sir, very much. That guy's awesome.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.